All right, we might just make a start so everyone can jump into their coffees. So I'm very, very excited to welcome today Tony Hughes, who is a best-selling author and internationally renowned speaker in all things revenue and sales. I am very, very pleased to have you on the second episode of Unleashed today, Tony. So
Thank, thank,
welcome.
thanks, Sharky. I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
Me too, me too. So today, everyone, we're going to be talking a little bit about the future. And so just a quick background. So I am a co-founder here at Cattle Dog Digital and am helping organizations of all sizes reach their revenue potential through the adoption of technologies and processes that help them to shoot off into the stratosphere. We are very, very excited to have Tony as a partner and an advisor to Cattle Dog, and we're excited to have him here today to talk about all the different things that we're seeing and all the ways in which that you can perhaps start to think about organization slightly differently. Some of what we have to say, or some of what I know Tony will have to say, is definitely groundbreaking. So I'm particularly excited, and I'm not going to steal his thunder. So yes, thank you for joining us today, Tony.
Thanks, Sharky.
So let's dive into it. RevOps, right? It's kind of been a buzzword for a little while, but it's starting to become more and more of a prevalent topic of conversation. So, in your mind, Tony, what is RevOps, and how would you describe it, and describe the relevance of it in where we are today?
Sharky, the reality is that the revenue machine of most organizations is absolutely broken. And there's been a passive-aggressive, dysfunctional relationship between sales and marketing almost forever. People tried to resolve that years ago with the creation of a new role called the Chief Revenue Officer, the CRO. And the whole idea was that the CRO would sit above the head of marketing and the head of sales to help them work better together to drive stronger customer experience, that resulted in good revenue growth. Now you could maybe add into that the function of account management as well. That never really took off as the reality. I saw a number of those roles created, but I can't really point to anyone that was hugely successful. So I think what RevOps is, so revenue operations, RevOps is, it's the reincarnation of the CRO function, but it's really designed to get the organization to stop thinking in terms of functions such as sales and marketing, or sales or marketing, but to instead think about problem domains within a business. So in my mind, there's three key problem domains that every business needs to think about. The first is, and this is the biggest problem for every organization on the face of the planet, especially in a recession, is the issue of pipeline creation. Every organization needs to be consistently creating quality sales pipeline for new logo acquisition in their business. The second problem is the problem of winning opportunities. So once you get a qualified opportunity, it's gone from MQL to SQL and then qualified. The thing is, how do we run opportunity pursuit in a way where there's a high win rate and we're applying those resources with the right prospects, the ones that fit our ideal customer profile, for example. Now, most organizations think they do an okay job. I think it can definitely be improved. That's actually what my first book was about, the book called The Joshua Principle. It was about how do you pursue a big complex opportunity and make sure that you win. So that's the second problem domain. The third problem domain is the retention and growth of existing clients. And in a recession, retaining clients is like winning clients. We need to treasure our existing client base and work out how we drive greater value for them in the relationship with us, how we drive loyalty, but how we retain and grow those clients. So create consistent pipeline, win opportunities, and then retain and grow clients. And the idea of RevOps is we think about the entire customer life cycle and how we support that entire life cycle with the resources of the business rather than a fiefdoms approach of sales and marketing.
And so, in the Joshua principle, you talked about the salesman in crisis, right? Like trying to sell to the wrong people at the wrong level and with the wrong strategies. And, what are you seeing from a marketing and customer success standpoint if we're kind of looking now at things in a more holistic way across the funnel with this revops methodology? What do you see as marketing and customer success's main issues, I suppose?
I believe that marketing and sales are absolutely broken. And I think account management has lots of room for improvement. But marketing and sales is absolutely broken. If I look at marketing, there's lots of vanity metrics, rather than the things that truly make a difference. So, branding and events and social media things. So lots of vanity metrics. And marketing's on the hook for MQLs, marketing qualified leads they pass over to sales. But what I find is a lot of the MQLs that flood into the sales organization are things that take the sales organization largely away from driving revenue. They consume huge amounts of time with prospects that aren't real, or are never going to convert to revenue. So, that's hugely broken. The other piece is that if you go to marketing and say, hey, the sales organization don't seem to have clarity around the ideal customer profile. They don't seem to have very strong buyer personas, and out of that, they don't have a strong value narrative. The message they're taking to market seems to be all about us as an organization, not about the customer, not about the customer's opportunity to improve results. Hey, marketing team, let's, can you give me a look at your ideal customer profiles, your buyer personas, the messaging you're creating? And when you jump in and have a look, a lot of it's really poor. It misses the mark enormously. And the truth is, marketing should be leading sales. If we think about marketing, it's the air cover or the artillery, and sales are the ground troops. They're going to go and driving engagement. So to me, marketing sets the agenda. Marketing creates perceptions in the marketplace about us to attract quality opportunities and help set the right agenda as selling goes and engages. And selling is all about finding a way to actually break through for engagement with that air cover you're getting from marketing. If I then look at sales, why is sales broken? For those watching this, I think almost everybody's in business to business selling. In the tech sector, which is one category of B2B selling, what I regularly see out there is 70% to 90% of the sellers in organizations are not making their numbers, and that's just unsustainable. The new book that I've just co-authored with Justin Michael out of the USA is called Tech Powered Sales. And in this book, we make some pretty bold predictions. We are absolutely of the belief that 30% of expensive field sellers are going to disappear this decade. Those roles will be gone. And I think companies are going to apply the money they were spending on those roles to sales and marketing, around the concept of revops. So they'll still be spending solid money on trying to drive revenue. But in the fourth industrial revolution that we live in right now, we're in the era where capital can absolutely replace labor in the category of knowledge workers. We're already seeing it, for example, in law. A lot of legal jobs are disappearing, as AI and automation can go and look at precedents. It can go and, review all of the contracts in a merger and acquisition process. It's money and capital and technology is being applied just to replace people. It's happened in aviation. It's happened in medicine. There's not one white collar profession that is immune from the bots coming and actually taking roles.
So there, that can be scary for some, I imagine, and often when change comes, that can create a sense of defensiveness. No, I've got to protect my job, and so therefore I'm not going to share or work closer with marketing. I'm not going to be that collaborative. I'm not going to evolve. And to me, this seems like an evolutionary change that is actually happening, where salespeople are becoming content marketers, and marketing is becoming customer service, and customer success is becoming salespeople, and that role is starting. The boundaries are starting to blur a little bit. What do you say to those people that are really struggling to, one, believe that that's actually coming and that's already here, and you just gave at least 4 or 5 examples of that, and how do you help people embrace that as opposed to combat it?
Yeah, so the first thing is that marketing needs to sell and salespeople need to market. Account managers need to be farmers and hunters. You can't be a vegetarian hunter. At the end of the day, everybody needs to create the necessary level of value that actually funds their role, right? So unless you are the point of difference in winning and acquiring new clients or retaining and growing existing customers, and unless you're creating the level of value that truly pays for yourself and funds your role, you're in trouble. And the truth is, the smartest thing to do in life is to embrace the things we fear or tend to resist the most. We need to embrace them. And if you're worried about automation and technology potentially replacing you, you should be. And if you're not, then you're being ignorant and complacent. Because all risk in life comes from not knowing what you don't know, right? So the first thing is to get informed about where the risks are so you can manage them. And absolutely, the bots are coming to take your job. And the way technology works, if you think about it in the aviation industry, a really good friend of mine is Richard de Crespigny, who's an Airbus A380 pilot for Qantas. He was the command pilot for QF32. That was the Airbus out of Singapore that had a massive uncontained engine explosion that went through the fuselage. Had they been at cruise altitude, everybody on that plane would be dead. They did a massive job of getting the plane back on the ground, and it was an example of people and teamwork and technology all working together to save everybody. But that's the only aircraft left in the world where, in essence, there's a flight engineer, on the flight deck. So, flight engineers were highly skilled people. All of them lost their roles. Those jobs just disappeared. So what technology does initially is it helps to augment, the way that we operate and then automate some low value tasks. But eventually technology can fully replace people. And even in America at the moment, when Donald Trump, won his initial election, he promised to bring manufacturing back to America, and manufacturing is coming back into America. But what he didn't say was the next bit, and those factories will be largely staffed by bots, not by people. So if you look at manufacturing, it's just replacing people. So long-winded way of saying we need to embrace technology, and everybody needs to develop technical quotient. They need to build their TQ. If you don't understand how to embrace technology to automate those repetitive tasks inside your role, to make yourself more efficient and effective, to give you more reach in the marketplace, if you're not using technology to make you hyper efficient, then you're deeply in trouble, because you just run out of hours in the day. Because we live in an era right now where average deal sizes are getting smaller. Sales cycles are nevertheless blowing out. High value sort of solutions that we would sell over time just become commodities. And the way that buyers are operating right now, the thing that's happened in COVID and the great recession that has ensued, that we're going to be in for quite a period of time, is buyers are saying, hey, do you know what? I don't need to be taking, Sir Lunch-a-lot, friending, relationship building, coffee meetings with sellers anymore. It's much easier for me to fend them off, to force them to provide a lot more value to me before I start to give them access to others in the organization. So the first big challenge for a seller now is to find a way to break through to people who are pretty disengaged. They then need to get them to turn the camera on if they're having something like a Zoom call. You need to provide a lot more value and get deeper into the funnel before you'll typically get access and the ability to get on site.
So then, therefore, does technology have an opportunity then to play an accelerated role in getting to that point quicker?
It absolutely does, but here's the reality. If you haven't nailed every aspect of how you go to market, and then decide to throw technology at your revenue problem, all you're going to do is accelerate failure and waste a whole lot more money. And I was talking to the CEO of a company yesterday who was considering outsourcing sales because they just can't seem to get their sellers to self-generate enough pipeline, or their marketing team to create the necessary level of pipeline. And he said to me, look, should we consider an outsourced agency to do leads for us? And I said, here's the reality. You can't outsource a mess. So unless you've nailed product market fit, and out of that, clarity about your ideal customer profile, technographics, firmographics, and psychographics, what constitutes the ideal organizations for you and your people to target, so they're not wasting time and resources talking to the wrong organizations. And then out of that, if you haven't nailed your buyer personas, and not fluffy marketing personas of the visioner and the pragmatist, it's not that kind of stuff. It's not psychometric profiling. It's, have you profiled the CFO, in a particular vertical you're targeting? So whatever that role is you sell to, the COO, the CFO, the head of sales, the head of marketing, the head of operations, the general manager of the mine site, whoever it is, have you got a strong buyer persona? So you understand what they care about, how they're measured in their role, what their stresses and concerns are, what the circle of influence looks like, the phrases that resonate with them, the typical objections they'll throw up. Have you nailed as part of your personas, why change and why now, as well as why with us? But most sellers lead with, why we're uniquely different.
Yeah, why me?
Yeah, wrong conversation to have. You need to lead with why change, why now. Unless you've nailed all of that, and again, marketing should really drive this because they should be good at it to inform the sellers. And unless you've done all of that, if you outsource your sales operation, demand gen operation to somebody else, and they don't have clarity about that, they're just going to be a more expensive way to fail, right? So you need to understand all of that, the best questions to ask, the common objections and pushbacks that you'll receive. Everything needs to be documented. And once you've nailed all of that, you've got a well-defined sales process. Now you can start to apply technology, right, to actually automate it. And so if you decide to put a chatbot on your website, that's going to hand off to a real human, again, unless you've done all of your buyer journey mapping and really thought about all of those things, you won't implement well. So don't apply technology until you've earned the right to do it. In the same way, you shouldn't hire sales and marketing resources until you've nailed product market fit, ICP, buyer personas. Like, why are you hiring people when you're not able to line them up for success? It's the same with technology.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I guess what you're talking about is really that there's this quantum shift that needs to occur in organizations to kind of earn that conversation, whether that's a marketer earning the right to create you as an MQL, to have your email address, to look after you, nurture you. Even the language that gets used is actually, quite an empathetic language from at least the marketing side. And then it hits sales and it becomes quite aggressive. Like, I'm interested to hear, how does an organization even start on this journey to, let's just say they're batching and blasting and there isn't that collaboration. And, we talk to so many people that are absolutely a little bit lost in that because they haven't got that establishment of this idea of everyone is revops, everyone that touches the customer is revops. So, would you say it's a quantum shift? Talk to me about what you think that's happened to kind of bring us where we are.
So I think that marketing needs to have a sales quota, right? Now, again, depending on the business, every business is different, right? So if you're selling super expensive high-end enterprise software, then this wouldn't be the case. But if you sell products B2B, what you'll do is you'll find some of the products that you sell are actually a commodity. And the truth is you should not have expensive field sellers clipping the ticket on a commodity, right? What you should focus on is on creating awesome customer experience to make sure that people can understand why they should buy from you and make it easy to do so, right? So make the customer experience the point of difference. And if it's a commodity, I think sales should really drive that. And if it's done through a call center, so not sales, sorry, marketing should drive that. And if it's done through a call center, maybe even marketing, owns the quota for that call center. Because marketing is typically really good with tools and processes, and managing metrics. So if that's the type of selling, I would give that to marketing. But at the end of the day, everyone needs to be focused not on their domain of selling or marketing or account management. It's all about driving and sustaining revenue for the organization. So marketing needs to be accountable not for vanity metrics, and we shouldn't drive them for the number of MQLs, for example, because you don't want lots of MQLs that waste the time of sellers and don't convert to revenue.
Yeah, they're
So
just garbage.
yeah, so
Yeah.
give marketing a sales quota, and that's how the best organizations work when they stratify selling and create the inside sales function versus the field sales function. So they'll have an ISR, SDR, BDR, MDR, LDR, whatever you want to call them, that inside sales role. They'll team that person with maybe 2, maximum 3, but ideally just 2 field sellers, and they're team gold, right? So that the SDR is gold on the revenue that converts, right?
Yeah.
Not on the number of meetings that they book, right? So yeah, it's really important to get people lined up in the right way with goaling.
So it's a shared revenue goal. It's a shared revenue responsibility across the different roles. And everyone just knows and understands what their role is to play.
Yes, yeah, and the thing the leader should do, the thing I'd encourage the head of RevOps now, who should report to the CEO, is my view, and sales and marketing and customer management, all reports into the RevOps manager, this new version of the CRO role. They all report into them, and it's about bringing all of those roles together. But what the head of RevOps should be doing and the CEO should be doing is they should be going to people, with their flamethrower in one hand, and saying, show me our ICPs based on product market fit. Show me our buyer personas. Show me the messaging. Show me the cadences and sequences that you want to build in a sales engagement platform that, is going to cost a fortune. These techs all cost lots of money. Show me how you're managing sales process and account management process within CRM, right? All of these tools should be enabling good process. Show me as the leaders of the business that you understand those processes and that it's aligned with the buyer, right? So selling and marketing should be aligned with the buyer. Marketing shouldn't be, mass blasted spam. It should be lined up with the buyer's journey, where does their journey start online? What are the things they look for? How do we provide high value content that attracts and engages a buyer, right at the very top, of the funnel? It helps them go and build their business case, identify their risks, set a vision for what's possible, and you create engagement that way by providing value before they ever look at product.
So then does that then change the role that sales plays in this kind of new world? If we're doing that and we're doing that exceptionally well, and the people that are coming through the funnel are very tightly aligned with the messaging. In fact, it's as if we've spoken to them before they've thought about it, right? Like it's the nirvana that we all look to achieve. What then how does sales then play a role in that?
So in many ways, sales hasn't changed. Sellers have to provide value and yes, relationships matter. But in other ways, selling's changed dramatically because the buyer now has far greater control. And I'll just give you an example of this. I'm working with a business at the moment that needs to buy an LMS, a learning management system. And this company is relatively small and everybody in the business is smashed with workload, all really busy and stressed. And in the conversations that we've had, I've said, look, the last thing you want is 9, 10, 11, 12 vendors in the LMS world all trying to pitch to you because you don't have the bandwidth. They're all going to want to build rapport and build a relationship and ask you lots of questions. And they're going to want to meet with everybody in the business, to gather consensus. You don't have the bandwidth. So the way selling works today is we're going to find people in our trusted network that have gone down this path before and implemented something successfully. We're going to go and have a look at what they've done and go, do you know what? That's really close to what we need. And then we're going to approach a select number of vendors and invite them in. And I said to the CEO, you think about this, because this influences how they go and sell as a business, right? Because I'm saying to them, people don't want it. The people aren't lonely and bored looking for another friend in business. They don't lie awake at night hoping a seller's going to call them tomorrow to give them a pitch, about the joys and wonders of their widget. People don't want more tech in the stack. They don't want more projects, right? They don't want what you're selling. What they want is the business outcome, that solves their problem.
Mm.
So, the reason this is relevant is when you engage a seller, I've said to the CEO, you don't want a sales pitch. You just want to get to the truth about, is this best fit, and what insights do they have for us? Because they've seen hopefully hundreds and hundreds of organizations implement this. And Sharky, I even think of your own organization, you do a lot of wonderful work around Salesforce, right? With both the sales and the marketing side of it, from a CRM and marketing automation point of view. We know that the majority of CRM implementations, regardless of the technology being used, aren't successful. And it's got nothing to do with the vendor's product. It's the ineptitude of the customer themselves not having clarity about what it is they're seeking to enable with tech. Right? So the relevance
we have
here
to
is
glean that out of them. That I think the biggest part of what I actually do love that part of what we do. The buyer persona. We kind of frame those workshops of a buyer persona. Talk me through your customer journey and try to help make tweaks along the way to match a little bit more. But I feel like there's so much opportunity for clients to take ownership of that. That even that process itself is so new and daunting, and there's often a little bit, no matter what organizational size either, often I'll be surprised at the larger the organization, the more dysfunction I find.
It's true, the law of entropy. Yeah, so it's very, very true. And Sharky, the reality is, if you engage with a client, like they might think they know what they want. The truth is they need to be educated about what they need, right? Mm. So we need to be brave enough to take a worthwhile point of view to them that reframes their thinking a little. So for example, if we help the client understand that in their particular market, the speed of responding to an inbound inquiry has a massive impact on the probability of it converting to revenue, right? So how fast you can respond to an inquiry has a big impact. And they go, and if they dealt all over the world, but they've just got an operation, for example, here in Australia, a lot of the leads that come in are going to take way too long to respond to. You say, well, hey, we could potentially solve that with a chatbot.
Yes.
And we could nuance the way that happens and then hand off to a human, right, to dramatically increase conversion rates on inbound leads, so there's a better return on investment from that marketing spend or the activity. That reframing of thinking makes someone an emotional favorite. They go, wow, you took the time to understand my business, bringing us a worthwhile point of view about how we can go beyond what we were even thinking of. You've identified risks that we weren't aware of, and we can see you can help us manage those because this is in essence a change program. Then that's why they'll decide to buy from you. And you go, okay, and we come with, Cattle comes with Salesforce, because that's what we work with. It's the best in the market. They go, fine, let's go with that product.
Yeah.
So where selling's changing is that 30% of field sellers are going to go away. That money's going to be reapplied. The capital will be applied to the inside sales and marketing function, and the field sellers will get involved deeper into the funnel, and they need to find ways of creating new levels of value that isn't about educating around a product. It's about being a true domain expert in the things that matter to the client.
And so then obviously marketing's role becomes, naturally larger and more imperative to the organization. You mentioned it before, marketing should have a quota. I've thought that for some time now. And often we get asked, what should that quota be? And I see a marketer as a salesperson, but, how do you see marketing's role changing?
Well, the blood drains from any marketer's face the moment you say they need to have a sales quota. The marketers watching this will hate me, but they're very good at fluff and spin and vanity metrics, right? That they need to be held to account for driving revenue opportunities into the business that are real. And then sales needs to be held to account for converting them. Account management needs to be held to account for retention and growth of those clients, but everybody needs to work together. So I think marketing needs to really think about buyer journey mapping and thinking about every phase of the buyer's process and how your selling process is married into it. Marketing and selling process is married in, and marketing needs to support every step of the process. So for example, when you're in opportunity pursuit, highly relevant case studies, that prove the results that our clients are actually achieving and working with us. So most case studies aren't very useful at all, right? So really focusing on high quality case studies that provide insights, tools that help people go and co-create a vision for a brighter future with a client underpinned by a solid business case, and far beyond some kludgy, cliched ROI calculator that nobody believes, right? But those kinds of things that sellers aren't typically capable of doing. But the other thing, I don't think more money is going to go into marketing from sales. I think it's going to go into, from a revops point of view, into sales technologies, things like these sales engagement platforms, SEPs, things like SalesLoft, Outreach, Xant, those kinds of platforms that automate, a whole lot of the pre-funnel activity.
So, really they become the marketing engine, delivering, I suppose, like a pre-qualified lead. We've been tossing around the use of, a PQL, like prior to an MQL. And so we've got PQL, mind your PQLs, and your MQLs and SQLs. So what do we then make of this SDR ISR function as, naturally the field sales role moves further down the funnel, marketing becomes more imperative and active and touches every lead in an automated way, using technology. What about this SDR ISR function? Like, to me, that's like a top of funnel fundamental.
Yeah. So the inside sales role, in my view, is where most of this investment is going to be focused, right? It's where it's going to be focused. So subject to an organization having their act together with all of those things I've talked about, ICPs, buyer personas, messaging, once you've got all of that nailed, what you then use, obviously, if I talk about the essential tech stack for every organization, the first thing is you have to have a well-implemented CRM, including marketing automation, as part of all of that, that enables and supports your sales and marketing processes inside your organization. It's critical. You must have a well-implemented CRM. It's just a ticket to the dance, right? You can't be successful without that. The next thing is what you need is social or network intelligence tools for selling. And the most well-known one is LinkedIn Sales Navigator, right? So you need Sales Navigator licenses if you're in B2B selling, for example. The next thing you need, on top of that, is sales engagement platform technology. Outplay, Groove, Xant, Revenue Grid, Ring DNA, SalesLoft, Outreach, Front Spin. There's all of these different products. Salesforce have just included a functionality in their own product called High Velocity Sales, which is their entry into this space. So you need sales engagement platform, right? So how are you going to drive cadences and sequences of messaging to people to create inbound is really the idea. Now, as part of doing all of that well, another part of the essential stack is data enrichment. So things like Trigger is a really good company here based in Australia. In overseas markets, things like Zoom Info, the bought Discover.org, maybe things like Lucia. It's a popular one for recruiters, but you need data enrichment tools, email addresses, phone numbers for that all to work well. The next thing that I regard as essential is trigger event monitoring, right? So the fastest path to a sale and the highest probability is through referrals and trigger events. And if you can combine them together, it's absolute gold. So obviously in LinkedIn Sales Navigator, you can monitor for people changing roles. So anybody that's a fan of your company or product and they move somewhere, we should be following them, and then we manage the risk of who replaced them in our account. And then as we build the relationship with that new person, we ask them about the organization they came from to create another lead. So this is where account management can both cover off risk, but identify two opportunities for sales. Hey, this supporter of ours has moved to another company that doesn't have our product implemented. Let's congratulate them on the move and follow them in. And hey, the new person that's come in, I'm covering that risk. And hey, as I built my relationship, I've identified another opportunity for sales for where they came from. So trigger events are just critical. Best company on the face of the planet in this regard, in my mind, is Trigger.
Absolutely.
So, you can even give them a list of all of your ideal customers, their existing customers and ideal prospects. They'll use very clever headless browser and other technology to do technographic modeling of those lists and then identify other similar organizations, to start to auto-generate organizations that would fit ICP. They can combine attributes of organization with triggers to give you funnel lists, for your people to be calling, where you've got the context for the call. You're not wasting time with too much research. So trigger event monitoring is critical. And then there's two more things to go. Depending on your business, if you're doing a lot of outbound phone, and everybody should get back on the phone, right? The phone is the essential technology in sales. Having a silent sales floor is suicide in business, right? It's a decision to fail if you let people go hyper passive with email and social and not get them back on the phone. We need to use the phone. But so parallel assisted dialers or just simple automation with dialers is really important to drive up the volume. And then the very last thing, especially in the era of remote selling, because of COVID, but there'll be a lot of remote selling will continue even after COVID, is you need things like a Zoom license for a corporate license and those other platforms. And that's really the essential stack. Most companies would spend about $1,000 a year at the moment on the tech stack for a seller. That's moving to 2,000. And, in the era of the fourth industrial revolution with AI, the thing that's going to come to the fore this decade is virtual sales assistants, basically an AI sales bot, that works for a seller, improving their productivity, booking their calendar appointments, sending emails to confirm meetings, it'll updating the forecast, like talking to Einstein inside Salesforce to push close dates out, to update the forecast, to listen, to watch Zoom calls and listen to phone calls and do a transcription, and then and then identify the actions in the call notes and get that into CRM automatically. What tech can do to give sellers back time is just amazing, right? Absolutely amazing. So that'll go from $2,000 to $5,000 per employee per month. So you can see why I believe we'll have less field sellers, but we'll still be spending solid money, but they'll be better equipped with technology. But again, you've got to earn the right by nailing your processes and all of these other things.
Absolutely. And look, we see any manner of organizations, at varying levels of what I would say revops maturity. So whether the fact that they've nailed their ICP and they're out there, the message is really authentic and clear, and they're speaking to the right people and they're inviting that conversation. But perhaps they don't have the technology that's supporting them. So they're getting bogged down in this manual, horrible land of everything having to be manual, and then often leads get left behind. So I think that role of technology and, just as a kind of a few final points before we wrap up, that secret, to me, I believe that's the secret sauce. You mentioned it before. Things like Trigger have totally transformed even the way that we work, where we no longer are out there kind of fighting for every single lead. It's that we now have very bespoke, curated, pointed, deliberate conversations with the right people that are in fact at the right time in the buyer's journey, where they're going to get the most value from us, because I don't want to waste anybody's time, and I don't think naturally anybody does. So I'm so excited. So just for you've kind of talked about like the tech stack. So what else might be the secret sauce that people could take away from this? And there's so much amazing content here, Tony. Thank you. What else do you think?
Well, the secret sauce is really masterful execution of the fundamentals. It's true of anything in life, whether it's flying, whether it's sport, whether it's war, whether it's business. So masterful execution of the basics. And I know I'm being repetitive, but I'm doing it for a reason. Go back and revisit your ideal customer profiles, right? And don't pay it lip service. Really challenge your ICPs, because that determines where you invest your sales and marketing resources for success. If you've got your ladder leaning against the wrong wall, you might, focusing on how to climb the ladder faster being more efficient in ladder climbing is like, it's interesting, but you're leaning against the wrong wall. You're not going to get the result no matter how much better you get. So talking to the right organizations and the right people, which is why then buyer personas are essential. Buyer personas are absolutely essential. And then the next thing is, based on all of that, nail your narrative. You've got to create the right conversation that's relevant to the person, all about them and their opportunity to improve results in their role, rather than about us, right? And once you've done those things and also thought about common objections, questions, how am I going to create engagement, you then map buyer journey, sales process together. You create alignment and you go, great, sales, marketing, how do we work together to support all of these stages in the customer's process, from being ignorant and unaware? How do we create some awareness? Once they've decided they've got a problem, how do we help them create the business case? How do we help them gather consensus in their organization to get support for change, right? Because the way we engage a client has a bigger determining factor on whether we win than what it is that we actually sell, right? So we've all seen the best product not win the sale, right? Because the customer bought from the organization they just had the most confidence in. They thought, you know what, this organization knows us. We have the highest level of confidence that they can deliver successfully, even if it wasn't with the best product, right? So it's really important to nail the way you deliver customer experience, sales experience, from top of funnel all of the way through. And the last thing we want to be doing is loading into our Gatling gun of automation, a whole lot of crap that just turns buyers off us and damages our brand and makes them deadened to any good engagement that we start to run, right? So targeting is really important.
I love everything that you've said, Tony. Is amazing. I know that we're short of time. We do have one question, so I'm going to just pose that to you, and then I know we need to wrap up. So if you have one more minute, Tony, we'd really appreciate it. So Gayatri asks, how do you think you can measure RevOps performance?
You measure RevOps performance by combining the metrics that you would typically have in sales, marketing, and account management, and you create an umbrella measure around revenue growth, right? So for account managers, it's about retention and growth of clients, right? So really think about the concept of OKRs, objectives and key results, right? And KPIs are another sub-level under all of that. But at the end of the day, is it a result? Can we measure it in terms of dollars and percentages, right? So we need to get people accountable for dollars and percentage improvements in an organization. And then under that go, okay, so what are the activities that feed into creating that as a result, right? So you can't manage results, right? But we need to line people up around improving results. You think, okay, what's the objective that if we hit it, we'll move the needle on that result? And then what are the activities, right, that need to be executed? And then you measure and manage the activities. So, for sales and marketing, or for marketing, I would just move away from vanity metrics and fluff and get them very focused on leads that convert to revenue. For example, we need to say to marketing, the number one thing you need to do in marketing is to feed quality leads into the sales organization that convert to revenue. And yes, we'll hold the sales organization accountable for execution, but we're not going to let you feed them things that are MQLs that just waste their time. And then for sales, it's the same thing. Like, sales have always typically been managed on revenue, but what there's been is a lack of clarity on the activities that you need to manage and the coaching you need to deliver around good execution. Because the first thing is we need to get them doing the right volume of the right activities. Then we need to also be making sure that they're doing those activities effectively, right? And that's where coaching, and that's where, sales intelligence tools as well, in the optional stack, which I won't go through now. But when you think about software that can listen into calls, it can transcribe, it measures sentiment, it measures who's talking for how often, phrases that are being used. Things like Chorus do this as a piece of technology, but keep improving the way that people execute is really essential. Sharky, it's not being published until June next year, June 2021. But the book Tech Powered Sales covers all of this, and there's a list of all of the tech that companies need to be thinking about in there.
100%. I'm already signed up to pre-order. This is you know, this is the future. The future is here already. And I think those that, you know, particularly with COVID, I think that we've all seen that it is there's a mode of survival businesses are now in. And for those that understand, adopt, and start to prioritize and strategize their RevOps performance across the business, I truly believe they're the ones that are going to make it through. But not only that, they're the ones that are going to start to make it through and transform what comes out the other side. So I know that Cattle Dog definitely wants to be there. we're on the pathway. We're partnering with some amazing organizations in order to do that. You know, Trigger is one of them. I'm so grateful that you've taken the time today to talk to us, Tony. We will follow up and share this with everyone. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Tony has some amazing books already. He's published books like The Joshua Principle. So if anything today really has hit home, I suggest you jump on to Tony's website. And he actually, the organization RSVP actually runs through organizations through a wholesaling methodology. It's a really, really worthwhile course to adopt, and all of those methodologies will increase revenue. So it's not just, I think, about the technology, but it's also about making sure you follow these methodologies. But thank you, everybody, for your time, and we'll speak to you.
Sharky, if I just have some parting words. So
Yes,
I just encourage everybody that my last thought is this: invest in your own TQ, technical quotient. All of the tools that you've currently got, become masterful in using those tools. Learn how to build a Boolean search, learn how to use nav properly, learn how to use your CRM well, right? And learn about the other technologies. Sales engagement platforms is the next big thing. So study that as a domain. The other thing is, please connect with me in LinkedIn. So just find Tony Hughes in LinkedIn. I publish a whole lot of content that you may find useful. You can find me at tonyhughes.com.au. I've got a tab on that website where you can find my books. If you're interested in my IP and how you can implement this in your own organization, everything I know around pipeline creation is in an e-learning program from salesiqglobal.com. So salesiqglobal.com. You can sign up for the Create Pipeline program, and it's an awesome e-learning platform with all of the templates for ICP, buyer persona, cadence sequences. All of those things are there. So Sharky, thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
Look forward to speaking again.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Tony.
Thank you.
Take care.